Just this week, Anthony Albanese was asked to choose his favourite Aussie rock songs for Triple J's Hottest 100. But of course, because Albo loves to be all things to all people, he admitted he found the task rather tricky. "It's hard to narrow it down to 10, said the Prime Minister. I think that's a pretty good insight right there into Anthony Albanese's leadership style. Try not to offend anyone, be all things to all people, don't take any risky choices, that sort of thing. Nonetheless, there were some oddities in there. Albo's number one choice was the Angels' Am I Ever Gonna See Your Face Again, which, if you've ever seen it performed live and heard the crowd's reinterpretation of the lyrics, was a bit odd to say the least. Albo's number two choice was perhaps even more revealing, Cold Chisel's Flame Trees, given that the song's most popular line is, "Let's see which one of us can tell the biggest lies." Also, Albo chose the Fauves, "Dogs are the best people," which may give an insight into how many genuine friends Albo has within his own caucus, if one recalls Lyndon Johnson's famous line that if you want a friend in politics, get a dog. Hunters and collectors, "Throw your arms around me" was in there as well, which does suggest a kind of desperate neediness to be loved and hugged by the public on the Prime Minister's behalf. However, the song does contain the key line, "I will squeeze the life right out of you," which is clearly the inspiration for the Albanese government's approach to the Australian economy, small business in particular. Equally revealing, sadly, is Albo's spy debate pick of "Buy Me a Pony," which is a rather dreary punk song about some sad loser with zero personality who dreams of being a big-time entity with his very own special place in history. Who on earth could Albo have in mind, I wonder? Plus, of course, there's the predictable "Beds Are Burning" by Peter Garrett, the fool responsible for the Pink Bats fiasco. Maybe they should have re-released it as "Bats Are Burning." And then in at number 10 is "How to Make Gravy" by Paul Kelly, a great song about the traditional Aussie family Christmas get-together that contains the giveaway line, quote, "They say it's going to be 100 degrees, even more maybe, but that won't stop the roast." Hang on. It was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 38 degrees Celsius, even more, way back in the 1990s or 80s even. But what happened to climate change? Anyway, that was Albo's top 10, but I was disappointed Albo didn't find some songs with more pertinent political messages to put into his top 10. I mean, where was John Farnham's "You're the Voice"? After all, the song was deemed good enough to be the official anthem for the failed voice referendum, which took up most of Albo's first term in office, and which Penny Wong and others are determined will be back on the government's agenda in no time at all.
I think we'll look back on it in 10 years' time and it'll be a bit like marriage equality, don't you reckon? Like I always used to say, marriage equality, which took us such a bloody fight to get that done, and I thought, all this fuss, it'll become something. It'll be like people go, "Do we have an argument about that?" They won't even like it. The kids today, or even adults today, barely kind of clock that it used to be an issue.
Yes, Penny, yes, and how strange that Albo left The Voice off his top 10 hits. And where was Yothu Yindi's Treaty? I mean, if ever a song deserved a re-release under a second Albanese government, it's got to be that one. Well, how about another pop hit from the 80s? Not Australian, I admit, but absolutely perfect for Albo's economic message. Yes, Simply Red's "Money's Too Tight to Mention," a perfect summation of life under the Albanese government. As a record number of businesses go bankrupt, and as this graph shows, under Albanese and Chalmers, real gross disposable income has collapsed in Australia and stands in stark contrast to the OECD, where, as this chart puts it, Australia is sitting at the very top of the charts, not the music charts, but with our minus 8% drop in household income, we are the worst in the developed world. Great work, Albo. Simply Red, by the way, should be Albo's nickname. He is, after all, a former admirer of communists. I'm surprised as well, given his fondness for classic heavy metal rockers, that Albo didn't widen his choices to include Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song. I mean, after all, Albo's entire vision for this nation appears to be simply flood it with literally millions of new immigrants, despite the fact that all this does is price young people out of homes and jobs, drive up congestion in the cities, and put massive burdens on welfare, on hospitals, on infrastructure, public transport, and social cohesion. What a farce. Or how about Stephanie Poetry's smash hit, well, maybe minor hit, I Love You 3000. The perfect song Albo could have had on rotation at the airport to greet all those Gazans, 3,000 of them, now coming onto our shores. Without it would appear anything approaching proper security vetting. Yes, there's any number of songs Albo could have chosen to show his support for the Palestinian cause. Speaking of which, I'd love to see Penny Wong's top 10 songs. Maybe I'll do those next week. What a horror show that would be. But in light of his upbringing, Albo could surely have included Simon & Garfunkel's The Boxer on his list. I mean, with lyrics like, I am just a poor boy, though my story's seldom told. I have squandered my resistance for a pocket full of mumbles. Such are promises, all lies and jest. Yes, all lies and jest. I mean, it's hard to believe Paul Simon didn't have Albo in mind when he penned those lyrics. But every sob story has a happy ending. And with our socialist sympathising Prime Minister now one of the richest leaders in the world, I reckon Topol's famous If I Were a Rich Man should be right at the top of Albo's favourite songs. If I Were a Rich Man. Ah yes, so many hits that Albo should have had in his top 10. But the one classic 1980s hit song that I think best sums up the average fair dinkum Aussie's way of living under the Albanese government is, of course, World Party.